Did y'all hear that?
It was me, Lisa. I apologize.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm the assistant manager for NCWorks here in Forsyth County, as Randy has already mentioned. And I have about 20 years employed when we were first the Employment Security Commission and now the NCWorks Career Center. So I'm just going to address some of the questions and concerns and latest updates regarding unemployment and labor market information today with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Mike Fenley, you've been with the senators, not just a campaign, but I mean, working as a field rep for a good number of years now.
Yeah, I joined the senator's campaign operation in 2006 after leaving the radio biz. And then I moved over to the Senate office in 2012. And I traveled 28 states as the senator's eyes and ears. Somebody asked me this morning, have you seen the senator lately? How's he doing? I said, well, my job is to be where he isn't. So I haven't seen him lately. I do hear from him periodically and he's doing fine.
You know, I both of you are Facebook friends, and I always appreciate when Mike takes time out to say, where am I? And he'll take a picture of somewhere across the state. And of course, you know, I don't know where those places are, but I get to see the state vicariously through Mike Fenley. So Mike, I appreciate that.
I get a lot of comments about that. A lot of people enjoy those photographs and the guessing game.
Yeah. Well, both of you sent some talking points, so we're going to try to dive into that. But again, if you've got questions and you're watching, please feel free to stuff those in there. We got stuffed peppers in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Scott Boudreau. Scott is having that. We've got Raleigh on the call here today. High Point. So hi, Cindy. So all of that said, I appreciate you both joining us. And this thing's been an evolving kind of a deal here over the last year and a half, 2 years. So first off, let's tackle this thing that was in the news big time. Like the help me understand here, the federal support unemployment ended in September. And there was a lot of talk about, well, this is going to change things and we're going to see a lot more people filing for unemployment or people applying for jobs, maybe more to the point. So let's get both of your perspectives. Lisa, let me start with you. NCWorks, did you see any kind of measurable change? And if you did, was it within a certain segment of the population or in overall, or just what's been your impression of that?
Well, it's exactly the opposite of what we expected. Once the federal unemployment benefits ended, we expected a rash. Our center prepared for it regarding scheduling of the center, of the office, and so forth. And the rash did not occur. That we have not seen an uptick in job seekers. My guess would be because, well, I have several theories, and I addressed this with Randy and Teddy before we started recording and so forth. Employer wages could still be an issue.
Yeah.
Individuals may still be out of work because of childcare issues, because they're caring for someone who's high risk, or they may be high risk themselves. Those are just a few of my theories.
Mike, what are you seeing on your end?
Well, and I'll be honest with you. If you turn the clock back to the fall of 2019, we were seeing pressures on the job market. So there were shortages of workers then. And of course, COVID came along and exacerbated that problem. So the end in the federal supplement, the federal supplement to unemployment was blamed for job shortages for the last 18 months. The truth is, I think the shortages were there already. I do think that what we have, and we've talked about this so many times, is a skill gap. We have lots of jobs that are available that are requiring skills that a lot of people don't have, and particularly the middle-aged class, middle-aged folks that did a job in older type of manufacturing and just don't have the skill set for the new one. And the thing that's so important, in my opinion, is there's federal funding that helps support it. There are opportunities through Goodwill, through the community colleges all over North Carolina, 58 community colleges, that to offer even short-term certification training that can help with the skill gap. If people just would first off, be aware of it. And secondly, take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges I know within Goodwill is people have heard of Goodwill, but they may not know what we do with the money, and much less that we offer skills training, and that very often it's at little or no cost. And if somebody is having financial challenges, they can apply for scholarship, and so we don't want money at Goodwill to be a reason that people don't seek out skills training so they can earn a livable wage and better themselves, in their career. So, yeah,
a lot of employers will pay for training.
Yeah,
a lot of employers have training programs either in-house or will pay through the community college or through you guys to do those training programs. And some of them are as short as 8 weeks.
So we talked about it, Lisa and then Randy and I talked about it a little bit when we were preparing for the show and when we were in the green screen and getting set up. What's happening? I mean, we can all theorize different ideas of, there's not enough pay and there's the skill gap. There's childcare issues. Mike, is there anything that's rising to the top that could be one of the key answers that we need to address?
Well, I think childcare issues could be part of the problem. A lot of daycare centers had shut down or reduced their capacities to try to deal with COVID, and some of them have had problems staffing as well, and having some firsthand experience with an early childhood education facility, wage is an issue. Those jobs don't pay very well.
Yeah.
They like to see people that have at least an associate degree in early childhood education, but they're paying $8, $10, $15 an hour with no benefits. A lot of cases, no benefits. So it's really harder to attract good people to those jobs. And of course, there are federal background checks that are involved and that will weed some folks out of that job market. So daycare centers are struggling to keep staff and to stay at capacity. So that's one issue.
And Lisa, any thoughts in addition to what you shared already on that?
Well, I'll piggyback on what Mike was saying earlier about people don't know what they don't know. NCWorks has always been seen as the unemployment office, but there is so much more that the NCWorks Career Centers can offer. There's on-the-job trainings and so forth. There, job seeking services, WIA scholarships. We like to call them scholarships. But customers don't know that. So just a matter of knowing what resources are available to the public. I think that is one very big hurdle that needs to be overcome.
Why don't you, when you're not talking, Mike, or Lisa, when you're not talking or whatever, but put it in the chat so people can see that. And then Teddy can also post that when we put it out on the internet for the world.
Cindy dropped into the chat, and I think this is a factor as well. I don't know to what degree that, this whole baby boomer stuff, I'm in that baby boomer bucket, and there's more of that population or that part of the population that are retiring. Do we see that at all, Mike?
I think that's a factor. I mean, there are multiple causes that we're facing the job pressure. I think there's also some generational change. Kids these days, young people these days, they want to apply online. They don't want to do interviews. They want to take the electronic route to work. And we, as on the other side of the fence, I don't know that we've adapted to that process as well.
I've even seen that TikTok, I know TikTok's a big app and everything. They created a resume platform for job seekers because everybody's on TikTok. Apparently.
Mike's on TikTok.
I'm not on
TikTok. I am too, but I
no.
only watch. So.
Another thing too, and I was having this discussion the other day, and that is that people have learned to live on one income. And when you factor in the childcare cost, is it really worth it for that? Let's say the wife, because a lot of times the wife is the caretaker and the child care provider. Does it make sense for them to work? And that takes me into another category that I know if Tempe's watching, she's going to love this because this is something that's near and dear to her with Goodwill. And that is the benefits cliff. And, we can point fingers here, there, and everywhere, but let's face it, if I can make the financial case to stay home based on, hey, if I take a job at, let's pick a number, $10 an hour, $12 an hour, $15 an hour. If I make too much money, I lose my childcare support. I lose my food stamps. I lose my other benefits. And that's part of the state. And I guess the feds too, that are, I'll use the word, and it's kind of harsh, enabling people out of I think the desire to do well and to help provide for those who are at the low end of the wage scale. And yet on the end result is that it kind of locks them in some ways to that way of life financially. And unless they say, by golly, I don't care, I'm going to study at night, I'm going to do this. And not everybody does that. So I don't know that there's an answer to the benefits cliff, but I think it's something that both the feds and the state need to look at and say, wait a second, can we approach this in a different way so that the cliff doesn't, if you will, prohibit people from taking a job? Thoughts on that benefits cliff?
It's not an easy solution to that question, because you're talking a great deal of expense. I mean, just for a small company to provide healthcare can be equal to the salary of an entry level worker. And so if let's go back to my experience with the daycare center, for example. We did look at having, had about 25 employees, not large enough to be required to provide healthcare, but looked into providing healthcare. There's just no way. We'd have to raise our prices to the point that nobody could afford to bring their kids to the center in order to provide healthcare and other benefits for those workers. And so that's a kind of between a rock and a hard place. So at what point do you provide a benefit that then puts you out of business or out of reach of your typical customer?
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
And I, as a parent, would be the one to feel that. So, these mom and pop shops, in my opinion, would be the ones to suffer the most, because if I have to raise my prices onto my consumers, then my consumers are not going to come to me.
That's right.
And if I have to raise my minimum wage to $15 an hour, that does damage in more than one way, because how employers are going to compensate for that, they're going to have layoffs. They're going to lay off their people.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have turnover.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You have bad turnover. And what do you do with those, for example, high school students fresh out of school who we consider entry-level workers? Mm-hmm. Where are they going to go? And I'm sorry, I'm being selfish when I say this. Are you going to raise my salary? All right.
Yeah.
So
Teddy's going to raise mine, just to let you know. I mean, he said it's in the works.
He said he was doubling it, right?
Right. But I want to circle back to what Michael said too earlier about the skills gap.
Mm-hmm.
Younger generations now see their mom and dad's manufacturing settings dirty, nasty, hot, hard skilled labor, when manufacturing is totally not that anymore. It is electronics, it is CAD machines, it is digitized, but again, you don't know. Yeah, exactly.
But there's still some piecework like jobs. Sure. But I was in a furniture plant down in Asheboro not long ago. They said, we've stopped all piecework pay scale. We pay everybody a salary. Mm-hmm. And we have production bonuses. If you meet certain levels, you get their bonuses. But they found in order to be competitive in the marketplace, they had to do something other than piecework. And they still have trouble finding people. And they offer free training. Mm-hmm. You can be hired and paid a salary and work on a training line with an experienced upholsterer, for example. And learn the upholstery skill while you're actually producing product that's going out the door to the customer. And I mean, there are all sorts of creative things that are happening. I was in Boone not long ago, and I saw a Kentucky Fried Chicken offering a $600 signing bonus for a $12 an hour job.
That's what happened to the Wendy's employees, Lisa.
That's right.
That's where they went. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
but employers are having to get more creative in order to find those workers who are willing to work, who have the skill sets, or willing to get the skill set. I'll tell you what, I wish I was 25 years old today and had a CDL, because I just saw Walmart offer $90,000 for a truck driver, guaranteed home every weekend, plus benefits. I mean, geez.
90 grand. Wow.
I mean, you know, and they get stock options and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, you work that job for 25 years, you got something to show for it.
And Dean just said that he heard that McDonald's is giving new employees iPads.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of companies, I would venture to say most every company has had to be innovative, and not just in terms of going electronic and, you know, with robotics and AI,
Right.
but also in how they attract and retain employees. And, you know, I hear it and see it every day, not maybe to the extent certainly that Lisa would, but I deal with job hunters every day, and, you know, they've had some interesting offers.
Well,
so to
so
speak. Yeah.
Lisa touched on an issue too, about when she talked about people see manufacturing through the eyes of their parents, and it is so different these days. And most companies are willing to take you on a tour and show you their facility, and it's pretty incredible to see 1 million square feet of manufacturing space, air conditioned at 70 degrees, and it's primarily because the computers like it at 70 degrees and don't like it at 80, and the employees get the benefit of it. I was in a company in a plant that makes press board for the furniture industry not long ago, and it was, and that's a hot process because it applies pressure and heat to the raw material to create the press board, and yet it was comfortable. It was because it was air conditioned, because the computers that control things like the air conditioning. So the whole manufacturing scene has changed. There's still some piecework. There's still entry level manufacturing jobs that'll pay you by the piece if you choose to go that route. But boy, if you can go get the skill, and it doesn't, I mean, we're not talking about go get a 2-year degree. We're talking about 8 or 12 or 16-week certification program can often do the trick. I think the other thing that's a generational thing is that we've spoiled our kids. I mean, it's not a popular thing to say, but I think we have done. Each generation says, I want my kids to have a better life than I had. Therefore, I'm going to make sure they have a car when it comes time to drive, to have a cell phone when, you know, at 6 years old, when kids are getting cell phones, I mean, I have great granddaughters that are a year old and have iPads. I mean,
Like, I don't even have an iPad.
I know. I mean, you're talking about an expensive item. And
Look at Teddy's phone behind there. Teddy, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, will you?
I'm sorry. Man.
There it is. Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is we need to show our kids tough love too. In addition to wanting to protect them and wanting to have a better life, we need to give them some motivation.
I apologize. Dean was calling.
Create it themselves.
And it could be a generational thing.
What phone there, Teddy?
Mike, I apologize. Dean was calling me while you were chatting. I apologize.
On his flip phone. We've got Mike Fenley with Senator Burr's office. He's a field rep there. And we've also got Lisa Lamb, the assistant manager for NCWorks for the Forsyth County area. And we're talking about Oh gosh, all of the legislative stuff going on between have COVID and the financial relief. So let's kind of open up the can of worms here now and see kind of what's going on at the state level. What are some initiatives now that the state has to help businesses, or just, give me kind of a lay of the land on that, if you would, Lisa?
Well, we're getting back to pre-COVID times in regards to unemployment and so forth. For example, the big elephant in the room right now is the end of all the federal extensions to include the PUA, the PEUC, and so forth. All that went to the wayside with week ending September 4th, as we've already mentioned.
Right.
So again, we're not seeing that uptick in job seekers that we fully expected once those benefits ended. Just a screenshot of then versus now. June 2020 unemployment rate was, I think, standing at 8.8%. It peaked at its highest at like 14, 15, 16. I think that's right, Mike.
Really? Wow.
Correct me.
Yeah.
And then right now, well, as of last month, it's down to 4.3%. And all this information comes from the Labor and Economic Development Analysis Unit with NC Commerce. So that's where this all this information is obtained.
Hey, let me pause here. Let me pause you for a second. So I want you to continue that thought, but I want you and Mike both, I want you to think about this, and I want you to be able to explain this in layman's terms so that, Mr. Media Major right here can understand it. And that is the unemployment rate, the U3, the U6 rate, when the rate is only 4.3%. What does that mean? And frankly, is that a bit misleading to make the government look good? Let's be honest. So we'll hold that thought for a second. We want to get to that. I see Fenley over there with a big grin on his face, because I know he and I think see eye to eye on this thing. There's more that meets the eye when you see the unemployment rate. So we're going to try to dive into that a little bit so you have an understanding of what's counted when you see that rate in the newspaper versus other measures that do come into play. So Lisa, let's jump back in, but I wanted to plant that seed with both of you.
Lisa, when did we hit the peak? What was the month we hit the peak of 14 to 15?
Oh gosh, I think that was, well, I'm looking at the year as a whole, but I think, God, we probably peaked. I'm guessing all this began in March. We probably peaked March till April, May, June-ish, July, probably. That's my guess. So,
Yeah. And if you let me, Lisa, because I want you to keep going with it, and you and Mike to keep going with this topic. So let's go ahead and do our 11:30 break, our 12:30 break now. Is that good with you, Randy? So, hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guests today are Lisa Lamb and Mike Fenley. We do this event every week at Wednesday at 11:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're grateful for our sponsors. We're grateful for everyone who helps us make this happen. Most importantly, we're grateful for our special guests and our audience. So thank you, everybody, for showing up today to participate in our show. Randy, back to you.
Well, yeah, in mid-sip, Lisa, any... I'm going to continue that. Where were we now?
So unemployment right now, basically the only available unemployment in North Carolina is the regular unemployment benefits with a max of $350 a week, within a 1-year calendar period. People are now again required to serve a waiting week. The looking for work registration, the registering on NCWorks is a requirement. Again, when I said pre-COVID conditions earlier, that's what it looked like before COVID. Employers, Cooper signed an order, I think the beginning of this month, that reinstated the waiting week and employer charging for unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
What is that last thing you said?
Employer charging. So
what does that mean? What is that?
Employers, during COVID, employers could and were sometimes automatically eligible for non-charging, meaning their unemployment account was not hit or charged in simple terms when an employee filed and started receiving unemployment benefits.
Okay.
DES and the local NCWorks career centers are have always worked in partnership. So instead of just simply cutting these benefits off and telling people goodbye, have a nice life, we're trying to get the word out and offering additional resources and additional information, job seeking tools that these individuals can use. I'll put the link up, but there is a link that DES has composed that shows what agencies and where you can go to if you need assistance with housing, with utilities, with rent, with medicines, with childcare for North Carolina consumers and so forth. So I'll put that up here in just a bit.
And Mike, I want to make sure, and Mike, flag this for us to talk to, and the feds and this, what I'll call the rent relief, or, forgiving, so you don't have to pay the rent, and how that's impacting landlords, and where that whole topic stands. So Lisa, if I'm hearing you right, if I lose my job now, I have to wait a week to file. I can't file if I have been receiving benefits in the last 365 days. Is that kind of sort of? So
when I'll go back to the waiting week thing. So to get credit for the waiting week, you have to make that application for unemployment first. And that is a common misconception. People think, I lose my job today, I've got to wait a week before I can go in and apply. No, absolutely not. You come to, you make that application for unemployment immediately upon your layoff to determine eligibility.
Okay.
Once eligibility is determined, then you get credit for that waiting week. But yes, you have to serve your 1 week waiting period. You will receive a normal weekly benefit amount, and that is simply calculated by the past 12-ish months of your reported earnings from your employer. When unemployment claims are filed, monetary determinations are sent telling you how much you're going to draw, for how long that benefit year is in effect. And you can only have one unemployment claim. Claim years are in effect for a 12-month calendar period. So if you exhaust your unemployment in, the normal typical 3 to 4 months, you have to wait until that unemployment claim year ends before you can refile. That wasn't the case during COVID and all these extensions, but we're back to pre-COVID times, so we're not even going to go there.
So your 13 weeks, is it capped at 13, and the feds don't supplement that with anything then either? It's just 13 weeks, right?
No more supplements.
So there's that. Mike, what's going on at the national level?
And I wish I could give you an answer. That crystal ball that you talked about early on is just really cloudy. Right now, for example, today, as we speak, they're still negotiating in the House and the Senate over a continuing resolution to prevent a government shutdown that would happen on Friday. The fiscal year ends tomorrow at midnight. I am told that there is a deal that's being finalized that will give us a clean continuing resolution to get us into December and allow us to deal with other things like the debt ceiling and all of those, and the actual budget. But the president's requested a $3.5 trillion budget, and it has so much stuff in it that's so controversial. I don't think it'll ever pass. So there's going to be a lot of compromise over the next 3 months into December to get us into a budget year. The rent relief programs that currently exist, I don't know how long they're going to impact.
Mike, can you get closer to your microphone? We're having, at least I know I just aged a year on Monday, so maybe my hearing died overnight. But let's assume it didn't. Move in a little closer, will you?
All right. So right now the rent relief programs are really a problem for landlords, and a lot of people. I have a neighbor. His basic income comes from his rental housing, and he buys and fixes up houses and maintains them himself and relies heavily on the rental income. He's struggling. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. Somebody in chat, and I don't mean to get ahead of this, but somebody mentioned remote work, and let me tell you, remote working is the way of the future. And there was just an article yesterday in the Winston-Salem Journal. American Airlines is essentially closing its reservation center in Winston-Salem.
Yep.
And all of those workers will be working from home. So you make a reservation on American Airlines, there'll be somebody sitting in their pajamas in their living room or in their bedroom.
Well, and Mike, to add on to that, they did offer, because I have a friend and I saw it on her Facebook post, so I know it's true. Mm-hmm. But yes, you could work from home or relocate to another city.
Yes.
So you have that opportunity. But if you do work from home, you got to buy your own computer. You've got to, there's an investment on your part. And so I don't know that makes you a 1099 if you've got to invest in your own equipment, and that's a topic for another day. That whole, are you an employee and subject to that versus,
the point that Mike brought up is it is a change in the way we run our businesses.
That's right.
And those of us who want to be a part of that need to accept that change.
And when you talk about a company the size of American Airlines, that's serious.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot of small operations. I mean, our operation in North Carolina, we have about 13 or 14 people, including the field reps, and we're now equipped to operate from home, and that's a pretty easy chore. But when you're talking, I think the number was over 500 employees in the reservation center that will be working from home. And take that effect into the commercial real estate market, where now you've got, 10,000, 100,000 square feet of prime office space in Winston-Salem that's going to be virtually empty because American Airlines is going to be working from home. And there'll be more companies that'll come along and do the same thing, because it really is very practical for someone. I mean, look at new banks today. If you've been in a brand new branch of a bank today, they're usually 500 or 600 square feet, the size of a decent motel room. You got one teller and one little office where you can sit down with a loan officer. But you don't have big banks anymore. And my daughter works for a bank that just recently opened a new branch in downtown Greensboro. And it is tiny because you can do it all online and on the telephone. You don't need space.
Yeah, very.
We have said that COVID has fast forwarded the state because the state moves at a snail's pace when it comes to technology, just to be quite honest. And, Microsoft Teams and Zoom and instant messaging, we never had any of that stuff. So employers are being innovative in how they entice, new employees.
Right.
So it's just amazing.
And there's one more issue that is impacting the workforce, and that is people who test positive for COVID.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had one of our workers' young daughter in school was exposed to someone who tested positive. Therefore, she was forced to go into a 2-week quarantine. So he has to stay home, take care of his daughter. Now he can work from home, and it works out fine. But that's another person out of the workforce, or that could possibly. I mean, if he had a manufacturing job, he'd have no choice but to take time off of his job.
And during COVID, if that happened, then a person could be eligible for unemployment. If they were a caretaker or if they had childcare issues and so forth, all those reasons have gone away now. A person does now have to be able and available for work. So,
yeah, interesting. Teddy, I know there's some things going on in the chat box. Did you want to fire away with a couple of those?
Dean brought up a couple of points. I mean, he talked about, his mom not being computer savvy. And, because of that, she's forced to have, in real life conversations to do the things that many of us who are computer savvy, and I'm not putting myself in the top of that bucket, can do online. And so not only does this change impact, customers and people that, need to be served by organizations that are virtualizing, but also impacts, people who are looking for jobs. He talked about earlier, he also said something about, how is all this virtualization, remote from work and computer work going to affect, people who don't know how to use those and they need to get a job. Well, I think that if we did some research, we'd find that over the years, these kind of changes happen all the time. I mean, the
Sure.
joke is the flip phone. Only phone Teddy knew how to use was a flip phone. Well, now Teddy's a little bit capable with a cell phone. Look at all of us, Randy used to ride a horse and buggy. Well, now he's got a car with a gear shift, and he knows how to do it. I think that this is just one of those examples, and I want to hear Mike and Lisa's opinion. This is just one of those examples of changes in society that is painful until we learn how to overcome it. Mike?
Well, the computer and the internet have changed virtually every sector of our economy dramatically. And let's go back to the banking. So this guy's mother is not computer savvy, can't do her banking on the computer or on her phone. So the bank has a small office that she can go visit, but the office is a third or less of the size of a typical branch.
Yeah.
And so the company, the bank is going to save a lot of money on real estate. So, and investment companies and any other service company like that that deals with people who are not tech savvy will have some physical presence, but it'll be a lot lower, a lot less space than it has been before. Randy, you spent a lot of time in broadcasting. You know how that industry has been dramatically changed by the internet and computers.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what the number is these days. Probably 7,000-8,000 radio stations in this country, and prior to the internet, there was a program director and a schedule of air talent at every one of those stations. Now, one person can pick the music and schedule the playlist for 1,000 radio stations. So if a company owns 1,000 country stations, one guy is making that decision, or one woman is making the decision on what gets played, and the DJs can be remotely located. I have a friend who lives in Atlanta and does a show out on 7 different radio stations, and it's fresh. It's every day. It's not live. It's recorded every day, but she can record a 3 or 4 hour air shift in about 40 minutes and upload the data to the computer. And if during the course of the day something changes, a big storm comes up or something, she can always go back and change it to make it sound like it's live and fresh. But that's another 7 jobs that don't exist anymore in that industry.
I wonder.
You may not know this, Mike, but this show is live on 7 podcasts. So that's the magic that Randy and I have here.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean that distribution has also impacted the traditional broadcast industry dramatically between satellite and podcast or availability online.
It has here. We've talked ever since I was a babe in swaddling blanket or whatever that's called, about how automation, and whether it was the assembly line back when Ford and those guys and that progressed, it's going to do away with the workers as we move from an agricultural based to an industrial based society. And we still continue again, to your point, with the internet and computers. And we're seeing artificial intelligence and machine learning and a few of those other buzzwords out there that, oh no, it's going to do away with the workers. But by the same token, we can't find enough workers in the first place. Right. So maybe it's kind of a good thing, when you get down to it, because it might help even out the numbers and help hold some of the cost down if I'm a business owner, because that robot's not going to ask for a raise.
And the robot
or benefits.
Once you program the robot, it's going to repeat the task over and over again. It's not going to wear out. It's not going to need a break. It's not going to go to the doctor. But you are going to need somebody to maintain it and to program it.
Right.
So the skill set is different. The number of employees may be virtually the same. But you go into modern machining facilities today, and you'll see, or modern textile plant. A modern textile operation in this country, there'll be one person operating 100 or more knitting machines.
Mhm.
Now, there may be 5 technicians that have to get called in when one of them goes down, but these fancy new high-tech knitting machines, one person can operate hundreds of them.
Yeah. So I don't know, I'll push back on you, Mike. I'm not sure that the numbers are going to stay the same. If I can replace, 15 fast food workers with 10 robots and only have 5 workers and have one
Right.
guy on call around my franchises to fix stuff, it's not an even trade in terms of headcount.
Yeah,
Hey,
I don't know
yeah.
that you could do it with one person on call if you had
Yeah.
a half a dozen restaurants, though.
Yeah.
You could,
But-
I mean, your customer base would get so upset.
Well,
The
not
old
to go.
McDonald's-
Yeah.
McDonald's ice cream machine is down. Every McDonald's ice cream machine is down.
They can't get parts. Seriously.
No, not to go too deep into that whole world, but do you see what's going on with shared kitchens?
Yeah,
Restaurants are, they're looking at a whole nother model of not having their own kitchen and having shared kitchens. We're doing that in Winston-Salem is testing right now with some entrepreneurs. So the point is that no matter how you slice it, the world keeps changing. You as an employer, you as an employee, you as a customer, we have to figure out ways to work within the changes that we don't have the ability to stop.
A lifelong learner. Hey, Teddy, we've got about 15 minutes left. So if there are other comments or questions that you'd like to bring up, I see some.
Dean's throwing out that he believes there's robots out there that can flip burgers, but they can't make great desserts. And I get that. I think the what's it called? The sous chefs, the really good executive chefs, we're not going to lose them. But by the way, they're not working at McDonald's and Wendy's either. So
no. They're not working those $8 an hour jobs.
No.
No.
So yeah.
You got anything else in there, Teddy? Some of the challenges.
Don threw out an interesting point. Don's saying that, as we're faced with this whole reinvention of the working world of entrepreneurial business, capitalism, that we're going to have people changing jobs. And one of the challenges that he is seeing is that when you change a job, your benefits stop and then restart. So, we're going to see more, and Randy spoke about it, Lisa spoke about it, this turnover tsunami that's starting to swell. We're going to see more and more people who, quit a job, they got to wait however many months, 1, 3, or whatever, for their benefits to kick back in. Mike, Lisa, anything going on, any conversations in regards to that transportability of benefits? Especially the insurance world. I think we talked about that one time before.
I don't know of anything specific that's going on concerning that.
Yeah, and that's asking a lot because it would have to be heavily regulated. And I saw the question in the chat. So yes, it might be 3-4+ weeks where you see, but if you get rolled eligible, you'll get back pay from when you first initially filed. Now, unfortunately, the bills don't stop during that time. I'm not aware of anything either. I don't know how we can make that work. I don't know.
It's just one of the pieces of the whole thing that in time will get addressed eventually.
Right.
Hey, we're getting about time for the crystal ball question here. So,
let's. Hey, Randy, before you do that, Mike had a point that he wanted to bring up that I think is important, and it was important for me 3 months ago. Hugely important. Passports. You want to talk about that real quick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this really has a major impact on the business community as well, and particularly those companies in North Carolina that are doing international trade. The U.S. Passport Agency is just slammed, overwhelmed, and we are getting. I mean, it takes us 8 to 10 days to get a response when we inquire about a passport. So I want to encourage everybody, even if you think today that you're not going to do any international travel in the next year, look at your passport if you have one. If it's expired, make the application for renewal today. If you don't have a passport and there's any chance, your phone might ring and a friend says, hey, I booked a cruise for myself and my wife, and she's got to work and can't go. Would you want to go with me? That kind of deal. You can't get last minute passports these days. They are very, very, very hard. So I just want to encourage everybody to look at the passport. If you don't have one and you think there's the slimmest chance that you're going to need one in the next year, apply for it today. Get it taken care of, because it's the number one issue in our office right now is passports and international travel.
Teddy, is your parole officer allowed you to travel internationally, or has that ban been lifted?
No, it hasn't been lit. She has to go with me, buddy. If she goes with me, all good. And Mike, just a point of clarification, the real ID does not replace a passport.
No, it does not.
Okay.
It is a passport is a tool to get the real ID.
Yeah.
It makes that easier, but no, it does not. And the passport card, there are two different kinds of passports. There's the old traditional little book that you get, and then there's a little card that you can get. The card is not valid for every kind of international travel. So the passport book is the one to have.
And Todd asked, just how long do you suggest that is the window for you to? How long does it take? Is the window that you're perceiving?
Well, they're telling us that a normal passport application could be even as much as 6 months.
Okay.
And an expedited could be 12 to 16 weeks. As I said, if you have an application in for a passport, what they're doing now, it used to be we could call the passport agency, find out where your passport is, get it out of the pile, get it approved and sent to you. Now, if your travel is beyond 7 days away, they won't even look at it. So if you're so I guess the advice is that if you have an application in for passport, wait until the week before you're supposed to travel to make the inquiry, and it will happen. So we'll get it out of the pile and get it moved on. But
good
they're not looking at anything that far out. I mean, and part of it's because cruise lines have offered some great deals, and people have decided I'm going to take a cruise. They book the travel before they get the passport, and that can present a problem because you
got it. If
you end up paying for the cruise and not being able to go. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good conversations, Lisa and Mike. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's crystal ball time here. So I know neither of you is a politician and you don't make the laws, but you're closer than we are in terms of ear to the ground as to what's going on at the state and federal level. So Lisa, let's start with you. What's that crystal ball look like? What's coming down the pike at the state level at North Carolina?
It is just what it is, a crystal ball. I mean, I can sit here and predict all day long. I predict more assistance with job search efforts and so forth. I'm in the process of putting some information in the chat of upcoming job fairs. We've re-geared as well in the center. We're, talking, we have a business service representative in the local center. We also have them on the board side of the house. They are out there pounding the pavement to assist these customers or to assist these employers, because employers are our customers too. If we don't have jobs to refer customers to, then that's a problem. That's one of our primary duties within the agency. So, getting more on the job trainings, getting more, obtained employments, getting more placements, helping these people with their job seeking services. That's where I see us going. That's where we're at right now. And we'll continue to travel, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have one of your crack staff working on the NCWorks website, because that's something that I'm sure can always use a little refresher every now and then.
I have no comments.
I hear you. So I will tell you that's been a frustration when I talk to folks at our professional center. They're like, man, that website is a bear. Mm-hmm. And I just wish somebody could make it a little easier to access and to understand. And
it can be a little intimidating. And my suggestion, it's the NC Commerce's job seeking tool, the brand that we have and everything. there is a lot of information available to individuals in NCWorks, such as resources, scholarship information, the free computer classes. You know, there's tons of resources where you can get information on free online classes. Allison's a big one. LinkedIn, use LinkedIn. They have free trainings available as well.
Yeah.
So it is just a matter of getting in there, click on it. Don't be afraid to click on it. You know, just get in there and explore NCWorks. That is the way you're going to learn how to use it. It is an excellent tool. It is a one-stop for job seeking services, for, you know, retraining, labor market information. If you're not sure what type of jobs are available, search labor market information. It's one of the tabs on the homepage of NCWorks before you log in. It'll show what jobs are available, what they're paying, what's the projected out, you know, growth of these jobs. There's so much information in NCWorks.
And I got a yes or no one for you here. Let's say somebody's out of state and they say, wow, NCWorks sounds like it's a pretty cool operation. Can I create, even though I'm out of state, can I create a profile and start banging away and apply for jobs?
Absolutely.
You can. Gotcha. Mike, let's move to you. What's your crystal ball?
I remember a long time ago, I was working on a Halloween promotion for a radio station I worked for, and I called a psychic, and I said, I assume you know why I've called. And she didn't, but I mean, you might as well call a psychic, try to figure out what's going on in this arena, or any arena for that matter. The things that are happening in Washington, the political divide that we live under today, the microscope, the blog, the 24-hour news cycle on television, cable news networks, radio, talk radio, satellite radio, all of that has hampered the ability of elected officials to make the backroom deal that really benefits us all. And I think back to the days of Newt Gingrich as the Speaker of the House and Bill Clinton as president in 1995, and they did a massive welfare reform package and passed a balanced budget. And it was because those two guys could sit in the room and say, okay, I'll give you this, you give me that, I'll give a little bit here, you give a little bit there. We come out of the room, we're winners, we're both winners. But today, there is no backroom conversation. It's all, I mean,
a lot of bluster. There's a winner and there's a loser, and it's a tribal, factions. Yeah.
And if you're elected, if you're elected as a conservative or as a liberal, it works on either side.
Right.
If you give an inch on your stance to make the deal, you get primary at home.
Yeah. Mike Fenley, thank you for joining us. Mike is Senator Richard Burr's field representative and a friend I've come to know over the years, an old radio jock like me. So we have some stuff in common as well as a hairstyle. So thank you, Mike, for putting a tie on today. And I'm glad you didn't spill your lunch on your nice white shirt there. Good. You didn't have spaghetti, I gather. You didn't.
No, believe me, the shirt and the tie will go to the closet within seconds of this.
Also want to say thank Lisa Lamb. She is the assistant manager for NCWorks Career Center in Forsyth County. It's a Department of Commerce department for the state of North Carolina. They've been in to talk about legislative stuff going on at the state and federal level. Teddy, I'll take it to you to take us home and tell us who's up next week.
Yeah, next week. Well, we're really excited about having probably the furthest distance any special guest has come. I believe he's still in Israel. The guy's name is Jacob Sher, spelled just like it sounds. Jacob's going to bring a conversation to us about getting back to the fundamentals of job search. Randy and I talked about this. We're really excited about bringing this conversation because we don't always talk about, or we don't often talk about the fundamentals of job search. So Jacob's going to bring that conversation to us. So join us next Wednesday, 11:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Invite your friends, anybody else that you know who's interested in our community and our businesses, interested in job search tactics and ideas. Invite them to the show. Appreciate everybody showing up. Lisa, Mike, again, thank you very much to both of you. Randy, I'll see you next Monday, buddy.
It's lunchtime. I'll see you later.
All right. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.